If you're stuck at 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, or 100K or more in your business, then this video is for you. And the better that I've become at business, the more that I realize it's just a matter of data, metrics, and a little bit of math. And I'm not the best at math, but I'm good enough to the point where I can essentially manage the health of the business on a napkin. And there was a book that I learned this from, and it discusses something called the KPI scorecard. So, any type of business, whether you're doing it yourself or you have a team, you have different divisions or different things that you do in the business, whether it's service delivery, whether it's the marketing, whether it's sales. And in this video, I'm going to tell you, just basically give you an example here of how this applies to you and your business. So, this book, it talks about KPIs and how do you manage the business if you just looked at a post-it note or a napkin. And so all of the different things on this napkin are going to be the divisions of your business, the divisions of your company, the different things that you do. And you're going to give them a score out of 10. And so you're going to need to determine what a 10 out of 10 actually is. And we'll get into this a little bit later because you're going to need to set benchmarks for different teams, especially when you expand and things like that. But if you're, let's say you're in sales and you have, or you're managing a sales team and you have 5 outbound salespeople, if you're not tracking what these salespeople are doing, you're not tracking what your team is doing, then you are going to be completely lost in the sauce. You're not going to know how to manage and you're not going to know really what to do. So what we want to do is we want to look at the key performance metrics within each of these divisions. Now, on the sales side, we have usually outbound calls, we have opportunities opened, which are deals that are sales conversations or meetings booked. And then we have closed, we have the total deal volume in compared to the pipeline size. And then we have deals closed. We have deals closed compared to the total deal volume or the total number of opportunities opened. That gives you your conversion rate on contact. And then we have calls compared to the opportunities opened, which is your contact rate or your pitch rate. So our business is going to be managed by the health of these key performance indicators or these KPIs. And so if we got Johnny, let's say Johnny's our sales rep, right? Johnny's making 100 calls a day. Now, we know that his outbound effort hit our benchmark for a 10 out of 10 is 100 calls a day. So we know Johnny's a 10 out of 10 on outbound calls. But Johnny's fallen short on his number of opportunities open. He's not booking meetings, he's not pitching deals, and he's certainly not closing deals. So what we realize here is that Johnny has a problem. And Johnny's problem is that he's saying the wrong things on the front end of the sale. This is a problem I used to have, by the way, because I used to have a 60 something percent close rate, but I realized early on in my career that I was closing the hell out of deals, but I was not saying the right things on the front end of the call to get the customer interested in having a conversation. I eventually fixed that, and then I became really, really, really good. So let's say Johnny, he's not opening these opportunities. So we know that we need to fix something on the front end of Johnny's sales process. We know that there's something missing. There's a disconnect there. So we know that the health of Johnny's sales is because he's not saying the right thing on the front end of the call. So then when we get further on, right, maybe he's opening a ton of opportunities, but the close rate's super low, which means he's doing something wrong on the actual sales call during the pitch, or he's not closing hard enough, or he's not building the value of the product or service hard enough or well enough. And so we now know that we need to fix Johnny's sales pitch or his sales process. And then at the end of the day, if Johnny's closing a ton of stuff and then his outbound effort goes low, we know that he's actually becoming more efficient in his sales process because his closing rate's higher. But when your closing rate as a salesperson gets really high, you start to get lazy in terms of outbound effort. So now we know how we have to go back to the beginning. We have to motivate Johnny to make as many outbound calls as possible because he's closing so many deals. And so this is in your sales department. If they're closing tons of deals and they're not doing something on the front end, you know exactly what to fix from a management perspective. And you can do this for every single thing that you do in business. If your turnaround time for service delivery on clients is just simply taking too long, well, you have to find a more efficient way to get that done. If you have a team and your team is doing the service delivery and it's taking too long, you have to make adjustments with your team's process. And so each one of these different divisions in your entire business, whether it's just you doing it or whether it's other people you eventually scale up to where you have a team, you need to make sure you're consistently almost every single day checking the health of your business. You have to check outbound effort. You have to check the delivery. You have to check that everything is going smoothly in the business so that you can get it as close to a 10 out of 10 as possible. So we use the example for sales. But you can do this in any kind of division, like I said, in your business. And so you start to realize how efficient some reps can be. And then you're ranking based on their volume closed or the turnaround time or how efficient they are actually will rank them within your company. So then you eventually are going to know who to fire and who to keep. And so we want to make sure that we're maintaining efficiency. Let's say, there's $1 million in the deal pipeline and there's been 150 grand in sales. You know that the total deal volume to the transaction volume closed is 15%. And you have to realize, okay, now I need to figure out how this guy can close more deals because he's simply, this is the thing to fix. So it gives you an overview of every single thing that you need to fix. And so you can kind of start to watch your own back in the business to know where the bottleneck is. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to look at this and be like, okay, well, there's a bottleneck with this guy. There's a bottleneck with this guy. We need to get rid of this guy. And then this is working. This is working. And so from an overall sales process efficiency standpoint, Johnny and Sam and Richard and Tim and your whole team in this one department are going to get their scores averaged out. Then you cross-reference that against the benchmarks that you've set for the team to see how efficient the team is. Now you can change the benchmarks around depending on what you're trying to achieve or how big your company is or how small your company is. But you want to make sure that the team is becoming more efficient. So then from a team perspective versus an individual perspective, you know that, okay, Tim's a better closer. Johnny's better at making dials. This guy on the delivery team is better. He's more efficient than the other guy on the delivery team. And so you start to look at the business from an efficiency standpoint. So then you have the scores for your different divisions and you know that, okay, well, if sales is doing really well and delivery isn't doing well, then we need to fix something on the delivery side so that sales can fill these guys up so that we can hire more delivery people so that we can make more money. If you have delivery turning stuff around really fast and sales isn't able to fulfill them, well, what's going to happen is we need to improve the sales department. We need to hire more people. We need to fix some things on our process. We need to make things more efficient. And this is like what I do on a day-to-day basis. And it's what I do in my business. And so this idea of this KPI scorecard is really, really, really important because you can just simply look at the business. You can look and see where people need to be, what's holding them back. And as a manager and as the owner or the founder or the operator of the business, you can also, if you're smaller, like I said, look at yourself and what you're doing. But you can do all this stuff and you can look at the business and be like, okay, well, we need to improve sales. How do we do that? Cool. Look at the individuals. So it starts on an individual basis and then it goes to a team basis. So your sales trainings with your team are going to be, let's say if the team has a low closing rate, you're going to be focused on closing and how to move the deal forward and strategies to do that. If your service delivery team isn't as efficient, we need to figure out how to get that turnaround time down so that we can load them up with more stuff from the sales department. This is like corporate management 101, and it's how big companies operate. Because you cannot, once you start to run a fairly large organization of 5 to 10, 20, 50 people, there's almost no way that you can manage them on a one-to-one basis. You have to do it, like you have to be able to just look at stuff really quickly, and the numbers and the data and the metrics that you get are going to tell you exactly what you need to do. This stuff is really important. And it's not talked about in the online space because business is business, whether it's physical out there in the real world or if it's just online. Every single thing that you do, you have to be keeping track of because what you can track, you can improve. And you want to operate with as much efficiency as possible. You want to operate your business, whether it's just you, if you need to figure out, okay, well, if I suck at one thing, then I need to hire that because it's taking me too much time to do. If I'm not good at sales, well, I need a salesperson. I need some help on these deals. I need someone who's more confident or more competent or more convicted in the process than me in order to do that. Or I need to work with someone who is going to teach me how to do these things. And this idea is really important. And on a consulting side, like what we usually do is we look at like the health of the business overall. I want to see the strategy, I want to see the plan, and I want to just make sure that you're doing everything possible to improve these processes. Because usually, and you can also extrapolate this to the marketing, but I'm not going to get into that here because I think I've made it fairly clear on exactly what to do. You just take the things that make up the division or make up the piece of the business. You figure out a way to track it. You figure out what the core key components are, and then you figure out, you give it a health score and you give it a benchmark. And then if you can hit the benchmarks, then you increase the benchmarks. You never want to stay stagnant with benchmarks. You increase the benchmarks, you turn the knob up until it's absolutely impossible to hit, and then you find a healthy balance between impossible and realistic, and you continue to push the bleeding edge of what's possible in your business. And that is how you get unstuck. That is how you move the needle forward. That's how you generate revenue, and it's simply how you make more money. Now, that being said, thank you guys for watching the video. If you want some free stuff, go click the link in the description. This is the video on the KPI scorecard. This is a really important idea. This changed my entire business. This is one of the things that changed my entire business. Free stuff in the description. Go ahead. If you don't want it, no worries. My name is David. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Much love.